It appeared after the second frost, tall, rust-bitten, and humming like a swarm buried under skin. No one saw it arrive. One night the field was empty, just wind-chilled soil and bent stalks of last year's corn. The next morning, there it was, an elevator shaft in the middle of the open field, standing alone, door shut, one button down. The air around it smelled wrong, metallic, ozone, mixed with mold, like pennies, dissolved in swamp water. I tasted blood, just standing near it. The doors seemed pulsed like a slow heartbeat. Walt said it reminded him of the war. Things underground that ain't made by men, spat and made the sign of the cross, even though he hadn't set foot in a church in 20 years. Itched just looking at it. My mouth dried. The wind stopped completely. That was the first time I noticed. The crows were gone. Then the door opened, and nothing was inside, but something breathed out, and something else whispered my name. Asterisk, I went back that night. Flashlight clutched so hard, my knuckles split. The field had changed, grown darker somehow, though the moon hung full above. Ground squelched with each step, like walking on rotted meat. The grass wasn't grass anymore. It scratched, drew blood, smelled like mildew and burnt hair. Every step felt watched. Not followed, watched. Grandma used to say, some doors weren't meant for us. The ground remembers sins, she warned. And sometimes it opens up to swallow M whole, and you too, if you ain't careful. I thought she was just superstitious. The elevator shaft stood silent, still, waiting. I circled it, heart jackhammering. No noise. No wind. Then, suddenly, a soft ding. The elevator lit up from inside. Warm, normal, clean, like a hotel lobby. I laughed. Just nerves. Maybe it was nothing. I stepped closer and noticed my reflection inside wasn't moving. Asterisk. I froze. My reflection inside the elevator blinked, but I didn't. Its eyes were darker, sunken, smeared with something black, like tar or ash. I stumbled back, but the ground felt sticky now, like the earth itself didn't want to let go. A low hum started faint, like a throat clearing from far beneath. The air thickened. Breathing felt like swallowing steam in old pennies. Then I saw it etched into the shaft's rusted frame. You descend, it remembers. Grandma's stories slammed into me. She used to speak of the deep memory, a hollow under the earth that collects pain, grief, and forgotten oaths. Some pits ain't dug, they awaken. I closed my eyes, tried to laugh. Just fatigue, a nightmare in open air. I turned to leave, and then I smelled her perfume. Faint, lavender, but she'd been dead 10 years. Behind me, elevator door creaked, open, and someone whispered my name. Asterisk. I stepped toward the open shaft, pulled by something I couldn't name. The cold changed it. Wasn't natural anymore. It was wet, metallic, like the breath of something exhaling from the dark below. The walls around the elevator had changed color, not rust bruises, purpling out from the metal like the shaft had been struck too many times by fists that bled. I reached out and touched the edge. It pulsed, faintly, alive. Then a light flickered. Inside, pale, flickering like a dying star. I saw a shape move, just briefly tall, thin, wrong, but a voice echoed up, soft, female, familiar. Come home. It sounded like my sister, one we never found after that night in the orchard. Hope surged. Maybe this was the answer. I stepped inside. Then the elevator shook. The buttons melted into the panel, letters dripping like wax. All but one, it just said, buried. And then something knocked from below. Asterisk. The elevator lurched downward with a ground metal screaming against itself like it hated where we were going. The lights above flickered and buzzed. casting me in stuttering bursts of yellow and shadow. The air thickened as copper on my tongue, mold in my nose. God could feel the walls breathing in, then out like lungs buried behind steel. My knees buckled. As the floor dipped, I gripped the rail. It pulsed, sticky, warm. Something had bled here. Recently, I blinked, and the mirrored panel ahead warped, not a reflection of memory. I was 10 again, watching my grandmother salt the windows of our farmhouse, whispering prayers in a dead dialect. Warning, if it ever comes from below, don't answer. Don't even listen. The elevator jerked to a halt. Silence. Then ding. The doors cracked open. Warm light. A hallway. Hardwood floors. Paintings. Familiar. My childhood home. I stepped forward. The floor whispered, liar. The walls began to bleed. Asterisk. At first, the hallway was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your eardrums until they ring. I stepped carefully, my shoes tapping against the wooden floor, each creak echoing like a gunshot. The scent of lavender hung unnaturally still in the air, my mother's perfume. But it was wrong. It's too thick, cloying, as if something was trying to smell human. The paintings on the wall were crooked now, eyes repainted to follow me. One depicted a well I didn't remember, its rope frayed, its darkness endless. My heartbeat stuttered. Was that always there? Then I heard it, knock soft, deliberate from inside the walls. I froze. Don't let it in, Grandma used to say. It lies with a voice you love. I saw movement in the corner of my eye, a shadow crawling inside the wallpaper, like wet ink in veins. I turned to run in, saw my own reflection, smiling, but my mouth hadn't moved. Asterisk. I stumbled backward, knocking over the old lamp. It didn't shatter. It screeched. The bulb flickered violently before exploding, spraying hot glass across the floor like shrapnel. My chest burned with panic, and the smell zone mixed with old pennies flooded my nose. I gagged. Somewhere behind me, a clock began ticking. I didn't own a clock. The hallway stretched longer now. Impossible. I blinked, hoping my eyes were playing tricks. But the wallpaper peeled in strips, revealing rotting wood underneath, crawling with shapes that moved when I wasn't looking directly at them. Then silence. No shadows, no whispers, no movement. I exhaled, trembling. Maybe it was over. I took one shaky step, just one end of the floorboards beneath me groaned, then sighed, like lungs filling with breath. Suddenly, the mirror at the end of the hallway shattered from the inside out, and through the shards, I saw myself. Not older, not different, but already dead. And it was still wearing my face. Asterisk. I ran, not toward safety. There was none but toward the attic. Something inside me whispered that the attic remembered. Stairs creaked like whimpering wood, each step colder than the last, until my breath came out in clouds. The air tasted like damp rust and funeral incense. As I reached the top, the bulb above blinked erratically before glowing a sickly amber. I was surrounded by relics, an old rocking horse, cobwebbed trunks, a child's shoe burned at the toe, and in the corner, an altar of rotting dolls, their eyes gouged out and mouths sewn shut with what looked like black hair. My grandmother once warned me about eco-walker souls cursed to mimic the living, wearing their faces until invited in. Never feed your fear, she said. It feeds them back. I spotted a trapdoor in the floor. Escape. My foot touched its hand. It knocked back 3 slow knocks, as if something below had heard me breathe. Asterisk. For a breathless second, I convinced myself the knocking was structural load, wood shifting in the cold. But then it came again, deliberate, rhythmic, like a lullaby in code. My fingers trembled as I reached for the rope handle of the attic trapdoor, heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. The wood was sticky, like sap or blood. I couldn't tell. A sour, metallic taste coated my tongue as the temperature dropped. Frost bloomed across the attic floorboards, curling in unnatural shapes that looked eerily like runes. Then silence. Relief washed over me. Maybe it had gone. Maybe it was just the trapdoor slid open on its own. A child's voice floated up, soft and unfamiliar. "You left me down here, remember?" Something inside me cracked. My memories twisted visions of a twin I'd never had. My mind screamed one word: impossible. But the worst part was the voice had my face, and it was climbing up. Asterisk. I stumbled backward as the thing that wore my face pulled itself through the attic opening. Its skin was wet, almost gelatinous, slick with something that smelled like rotting milk and sulfur. My knees buckled. The walls pulsed as if breathing, veins of black mold creeping across the wallpaper in jagged, vascular patterns. The taste of ash filled my mouth. Every breath was heavy, like inhaling through thick cloth soaked in vinegar. My eyes burned, my mind fractured further. Then it smiled. For a heartbeat, I remembered the stories my grandmother used to whisper, the broken reflection, a cursed spirit that took root where grief was buried too deep. It wasn't just folklore. It had waited, grown stronger, fed off me. I slammed the attic door shut and bolted it, heart racing. Silence. No movement. Maybe I trapped it. But then I heard scratching from inside the mirror behind me and a whisper. "Now it's your turn."